Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today's going to be exciting because we are putting back the 350Z. We're putting everything back together. We have a pretty big pile here of stuff that needs to go back on. I'm going to explain to you guys kind of how far I've come with the LS swap so far here. As you've seen in the previous video there, we had it being loaded in over on that side of the shop. So essentially we had it loaded in without the transmission, because you cannot get the transmission and the engine in as one piece, as you probably seen in the last video as well. The best thing to do is to actually assemble it as a unit and drop the whole subframe. I will throw a picture up here, kind of what I did with that. As you can see there, it's sitting on the jack stands, and you basically drop the car on top of the engine and everything. That way then the headers and everything can clear, no problem. Can't put these headers in with the engine in, so if I have to do any maintenance, I can drop the whole power plant from underneath, as you guys seen there with on jack stands, which is not too bad. There's not too many bolts to drop the subframe, so I'm trying to make this as easy and everything to maintain. Say if I need to put a clutch or something in it, because you actually can't get the transmission out unless you drop the whole subframe, because you can't see those two or three top bolts in the back there for the bell housing. So we have to drop the whole thing to do a clutch or any maintenance like that, which is no big deal. It doesn't take much. Pretty much have it down to a science now. I've done it so many times. Here's kind of where we stand right now. Today's video, we're going to be routing these lines for the heater core. We've got splices here. Everything that we need is going to be in that box there and in this box here. So I'm going to be running those over to these here for the heater core, so we have heat. This is my power steering return line. I have to run a line for that, and I'm going to run it through the factory location down there and up and around, and then it will come over to the return side on this. Ran the feed line, headers are in, plug wires are in. Pretty much everything's ready to go. I had to make a custom bracket here for the oil filter relocate, so it wraps around and into the adapter plate. That is nice and easy to service. It'll hang down like that, and then the undershield will protect it. As you can see, it's not hanging too low, so that's a good spot, I thought, to make that work for. It's not going to make a mess when you service it anyway, because some guys will put it up here and then you screw the filter and then the oil gets everywhere. I didn't really want that. This is originally where the AC compressor would mount to, so I figured it would be a good idea to make the bracket work for there. And as far as that's basically as far as I've gotten with this. We're gonna be putting together this stuff here. The only thing that we're waiting on for this car is the wiring harness from Wiring Specialties. They're waiting on the CAN bus modules to communicate with the stock factory Nissan gauges and all that other stuff. Due to the shortages and everything, it's hard to try and get some computer chips and whatnot, so same with the rest of the world. So I ordered this wiring harness about December 6th, I think it was, and it's still not in yet, but they're predicting that it will be in March, so that's a couple weeks away from now. So fingers crossed for that, and then we'll literally have everything done for this car, and then we'll be able to fire it up. Here's my list of stuff that's going on here. As you can see, most of it's being checked off other than the wiring harness. There's still a few other things that I need to do. It's good to have checklists like that, because then you don't forget anything, and when something comes to your mind, you can just write it down, and then you can check it off as you're going with the car. Let's get started with putting this stuff back together, and then we'll go from there. So I've ran the return line for the power steering here. Like I had mentioned, I was going to run it through the original spot there where there were some lines were being ran. So I ran it through that, and if you ever get a chance to keep these clips off of whatever you're doing or whatever builds you're doing, they're definitely handy to have for holding like lines and stuff like that. Like for example, I had a hole right here already for this push pin to go through. Unclip it and it will hold the line to a tight wall for you or whatever, and it just makes it look like it's OEM and it's supposed to be there. So it wraps around and comes up to here, and I put a nice clamp on there, so that runs back and up and around nicely, and then reconnects back over here to the original power steering reservoir. That way then I can keep my original lines and power steering cooler as well, because usually with the Cadillac and Camaro stuff, they have a reservoir on top here. I didn't want that reservoir to be on top. It just doesn't look as nice. Like I said, it keeps the factory cooling, and it runs through the cooler, so it keeps it from overheating and whatnot, so it makes the pump last longer. Now that the power steering line is routed there, I'm going to run the coolant lines from here over to here. Also going to run the catch can lines. I have made this bracket here that wraps around and twists and bolts to the head. And by the way, with this ground here, this was actually a ground from the factory 350Z, and it just so happens that it lines up perfectly with the head there. And I also ran the other ground down to the block, so the block and the head are grounded to the car as well. So I'm gonna run these lines here, run my steam port line out, so then that way it can get all tidied up and run those lines there. So as you can see there, I kind of mocked up the sizing there. I got a 20-foot roll of this stuff. I don't know exactly why. I'm sure that I'll use it on another project or something. I got all this stuff from HPS. They make all kinds of coolant, you know, custom coolant lines and everything else. I got those from HPS, and then the rest of this stuff is actually from Pegasus Auto Racing, and I had to get reducers and 90s and everything else. We'll go over all that stuff once we get the main cooling system done. But as of for right now, I just mocked this up, and now I'm gonna use joiners that I also got from Pegasus Auto Racing, and join them up, put some clamps up, and then we'll see how it looks at the end. As you can see here, this is the joiners that I was talking about. They'll go between the two lines there, and then 2 clamps on each side, and I'll try and keep it as tight as possible. So all the lines for the heater core are tucked in nicely away here. I utilized some nice factory OEM clamps here, so it doesn't look, there's not too many hose clamps. I did the same for back here. I'd rather have the clamps like this down here because it's not so visible. You won't see this as much as you will up there. So I thought this would be all right there, and I just have to get some clamps for this. And then that way everything runs nice and smooth over and it's not interfering with anything. Yeah, there's still lots of room, not rubbing anything. So now that that's ran, we're gonna run the catch can lines, and I'm gonna run the steam port line as well. The nice part about this stuff is that it cuts very, very easily. It's easy to route and doesn't kink as much. All these angles seem to work out pretty good. As you can see there's no kinks or nothing. It comes right off the can and into the intake, and then off of the valley there as well. Now that all this stuff is pretty well tied up here, I think it's now time to put the front end back on. So I'm gonna run all the main cooling system, put the front clip on. As you can see, it's over here. Put where's the radio? There it is. Put the radiator on, and then I got these Mishimoto slim fans too, so we're gonna put those on and then see how it looks with everything buttoned up, and then we can start running our power steering lines through to our cooler as well and start buttoning up some of this wiring. Now this becomes the fun part here with the setup that I have. Like I said, Pegasus Auto Racing Supplies will give you pretty much everything to make your custom cooling system. So obviously I went with the blue just to kind of tie in with everything else. You can get your 90s here. So I have to adapt the fittings off of the LS here, and there are different sides than the fittings on the 350Z rad, so you kind of have to get reducers and expanders and all that sort of good stuff. Piece of straight aluminum pipe here because I'm going to run my steam port. You'll see what I mean in a second with that. And then some more 90s. These are the couplers here, same sort of thing as what we just did with the heater core lines. These are joiners, and then we'll just run the lines through there. And we'll cut these to size and we'll get at it. So as you can see there, I have it slid on, I have it cut to length. I'm gonna put a clamp here, and then it pretty well lines up perfectly there instead of it being back here and binding. So then that leaves me room to put this section in, and then I can weld a bung onto here, and then that's where my steam port will go to. There's going to be steam pockets at the top of the heads here, so this actually helps with coolant flow to eliminate those steam pockets. It has some steam ports at the back too, but since the engine is up like this, all the fluid, it doesn't have that issue of having a steam pocket as it would up at the top here, so this will prevent that from happening. So this is where the down piece comes here off of this elbow. Down here I'm going to do a straight section and straight across, and then butt right up to this section over here, so it shouldn't be too hard to line up. Set up the vacuum here. I'm going to cut this tube for the down tube that is coming from the top, and I'm cutting a piece off for the upper one as well for the steam port, so I don't have to run so much silicone. So I'm running a vacuum here because when you cut in aluminum, it flies everywhere, so I don't want it to fly on the paint and everything else, and then it gets rubbed in and then create scratches, so we'll try and collect as much as we can here. So I got my straight section cut out now, and it will slide right up in like this, and then I can clamp on both sides there and adjust the height of it. I left myself some room with that, so I can go and match this side up perfectly and have it level. Now that we've grabbed the headlights from the basement there, I'm going to start putting these back in. Now that we've got the headlights in, time to grab the bumper, slip it on, plug in my daytime running lights, the vertical ones, and then we can have it floating there, and it looks like it's somewhat complete. Now it's a good time. I'm going to take a minute to show you guys what SerialNine. As you guys know, SerialNine was a shifter that I got put in this. They actually sent me a little care package. I'll go ahead and show you what they gave me here. They gave me a t-shirt. So first things first, I'm going to put this on, and just like that, fits perfect. Glad to be repping a good company like this. Like I said, I can't speak highly enough when someone does a really good job on fabrication and things that are actually line up and work properly. I finished putting in the shifter and everything from them, and everything works just like it does from factory, butter smooth. So for that reason, I have no problem wearing t-shirt of theirs, or as well as they sent me a bunch of stickers, obviously. Put those in the toolbox, and then they sent me this banner as well. It's probably upside down. Oh, but I'm going to hang this up in the garage so the walls don't look as white and plain, so we'll hang this up and behind and continue with the video. Alright, I'm going to put a lot of trust into this blue box, and hopefully I don't need it. As you guys can see there, we just put the front bumper on. Pretty much everything is tidied up with this car. I'm gonna leave the undershield off because, like I said, I'm still waiting on the wiring harness. But I just wanted to leave it up in the air and show you guys kind of what it looks like underneath. So this is what I was talking about with the oil filter relocate kit. Lines run over to that plate back there, and then the bracket there. This is what we ran today, these coolant lines here. Everything seems to be really nice and tidy. Just how I want it. And then these fans here, they'll plug into my new wiring harness, so I just have them waiting for the wiring harness, and I'll tuck that all away nicely. Back here is where the headers come to. They're gonna come off 3-inch all the way through here, 3-inch, and then curve over here, and then we'll do an X pipe right before the pipes here, so I can utilize and keep the back half of this exhaust here, because I like the look of that. And then if I have to, I can chop here and put V-bands and make mufflers if I need to. I'm probably going to need to, but we'll worry about that later on. But run the X pipe over there. We got 2 humps here, so you can easily fit 3-inch through there, no problem, because these are 3-inch as it is right here. So new drive shafts in, bracing's all in underneath here. Here's the oil pan here. Ran my temp sensor to the back of the pan. Here's my wideband, so everything's ready to hook up for the exhaust. Clutch line. So other than that, guys, we're pretty much wrapped up for as much as we can do right now. We're going to be doing a full custom exhaust on this. So I'll be filming the process of that as well. So we're gonna stop the video here today. Thanks for watching. Check out the next one when it comes out. We'll hopefully have the wiring harness, say in a couple weeks. Then we can get this thing running here, and we'll have a first startup on video. So as of for now, guys, comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for the support. Catch you guys in the next one.